Zane Morris here. Big sorority boss. ZANEMORRIS. Big sorority boss. Violent Z, look it up. Chick solved 2. If you need, you're already here. If you need to spell it, it's Chick, CHICK, solved, SOLVED, 2 TWO, that channel at YouTube. There's a 60-40% split. There's always been a 40-60 split, but now it's switched over since 9/11 was opportunized to take quote violence off TV. And obviously I've been named from promoters for the violence that I portray, but it's not a portrayal. It's a perpetration. I perpetrate violence because it wins. I'm not 7 feet tall. I'm not 800 pounds. But I could beat you if you're 7 feet tall and 800 pounds because these shoulders are 3x wider than if you were that big for some people. So dealing with the subject of putting people over in wrestling, the 60-40 split is now 40% are the people that have always been real in wrestling and try to be professional wrestling of what amateur wrestling is. And even amateur wrestling is not trained right. So therefore it is ineffectual. Therefore I would call it a fake existence in wrestling, a fake reputation in wrestling. So why would you put somebody over on purpose? Putting somebody over is an insider term, and I've been there. We were from basically the old NWA. We tried to relaunch. You could look it up, Zane Morris, NWA. Texas has always been separate. Directly, they call it a rough and tough, rough and tumble, hardcore, full contact, or people don't show up and you don't get higher territory. The only reason that people would choose not to win the match, like when I wrestled in Canada versus Pete in the last class trained by Stu Hart, who actually trains Fritz Von Erich, who trained the men that I beat the second time around. I had to get beaten. I had no choice but to put him over because I would have gotten hurt badly. That's how the NWA used to work before it became theatrical style. And that was part of the 20% going from 60% real, 40% theatrical style, which has always been up north in New York territories and mixed territories and martial arts territories. They always figure out a way to control everything. They're control freaks. To whereas in my line of thinking, like Arnie Ladd, it's called going into business for yourself. You could look up podcasts, Jim Cornette on Drive-Thru Podcast on going to business for yourself, and he told me why he did it. He was basically in the ring, and he was big, tall, like mixed race black guy. I'm mixed race. I'm Indian, but it's like basically Indians and mixed race people, Creole people are the same. Creole means that English isn't your first language, or the American culture isn't your first language. He said he looked out in the audience and he saw, this is called professionalism, because you got to wrestle back then 7 times a week sometimes, but you got to wrestle next time or you don't get paid. So that's the professional part. That's why I don't break my hand on you, because I can't wrestle you next week with a broken hand. Professionalism. But he looked in the audience in the LA auditorium and he was wrestling the top good guy there, and he made more as a bad guy, and he saw nothing but sparkles out there, and there were no smartphones at the time. This was what, 60s or 70s or 80s, and it was all knives. Mexicans, like basically a lot of them worked in produce and stuff, so they carried knives. And he said to the referee, he goes, you tell him to go back and get his tag team partner, come out here and tell him to take his shoe off and hit me with a shoe. The thing is, the audience, it's to prevent riots, okay? And he look up Oxbaker versus Arnie Ladd riots. That's how you have riots. So it's for public safety. And then Ric Flair did it whenever he put a man over in some Puerto Rico or something, or some Central American country, because he cheated to win. I mean, lots of times cheating to win is the only way you can do it. That's why we allow the 5-second rules and stuff, the TM and all this stuff. But he basically pinned the guy, or he went to pull the ties to pin the guy, the local hero. The bad guy is usually tours, used to, and that's how you got to experience. You had to take on all comers like me and my friends, Largus and Larry Kananga, Largus and Kevin Duncan, you know, champions for over decades. The soldiers, they actually had military police guarding the ring because the riots would start, and they lowered their guns at Ric Flair for cheating. So he pulled the guy on top of him and said, pin me. I did similar whenever I needed gas money to get home, whenever on my disputed WWF loss. I tried to get disqualified ref because he told me to take the match home. Usually it's up to the wrestlers, like a baseball game, to know when to take the match home. The point being is, when you put somebody over, the time I did it, on purpose was whenever I had my tour of Canada. I had the last match. I was in a tag team contest with a piece of crap tag team partner that ended up quitting. I didn't know, I mean, later on, when future NWA world champions told me, hey man, your partner couldn't work, you could work. More on that later. Point is that I wouldn't have been there to defend the titles. It would have cost more business to have to send the titles back. What if the champion wins and they lose and they go to the next town? And they don't come back, and then you don't have a champion anymore, and it kills your business. So because I wanted to come back, I made the best impression I could, and you use those opportunities to test yourself. So I tested myself on some moves that I was new, and I pretty much overextended myself. We're a lot like a circus performer. We're a lot like a gladiator. The point is that you have to have an opponent. Read Terry Funk's book. He talks about it's just like picking point spreads in football, but you have to have an opponent. Now, I'd already had the championship match. There wasn't enough money to come back. I needed a legend. That was a business decision. It's actually political. Trademark. It's political decisions. So the truth being, when you don't have good enough opponents, you have to protect yourself politically, and that's what's been going on since about 1998. And somehow the pocket of real wrestlers have grown just smaller and smaller and smaller until they're 40%, and I've basically run out of local opponents. So now we're going to have to go national and international again. Even international is terrible. We were never actors. There's a feint in boxing where you fake hurt. Oh, God, and so I can get you. But they're basically charging for workouts. MMA, they took their shoes off their feet, put it on their hands. So that's why, by algebra, it's not the way it is. So, 7 minutes is enough. Zane Morris, big sorority boss, Violet Z. Well, the only thing that's predetermined an outcome is like Vegas sports odds were that good. I predicted this. Bye.